We're back on Morning Trade Live. Let's focus on Costco now, as it will report earnings after the close today. Shares have been under pressure as it hit a 52-week low yesterday and is down nearly 5% on the year. Expectations are for adjusted EPS of $4.26 on revenues of $67.33 billion. So we're trading up right now just fractionally, 0.2%. It's 876 and change for Costco. And if we take a look at the chart, shall we? There we have it. We've been on a downward trajectory, as you can see there, from the middle of the year. Let's get a quick overview of this and a bit of a preview ahead of these earnings, because it is the focus of the morning trade. Joining us for a closer look at it is Schwab Network's host, Marley Caden. Very good morning to you, Marley. So, obviously Costco has been on a bit of a downward run of late, but, what are we expecting ahead of these earnings? Because we have seen the retailers obviously holding up across this earnings season, what has been telling us about the consumer. What are you seeing out there as far as what to expect?
Good morning to you, Sam. Yeah, interestingly enough, you bring up a good point with the retailers that we've got, and we are seeing them hold up. And that's the expectation for Costco as well, despite us looking at that chart and seeing their shares slumping this year. You mentioned EPS expected to come in around $4.26 on revenue of about $67.3 billion. That would be up about 8% year over year. So they are looking for an increase, though. As far as what analysts are expecting, they're saying that consumers, even with tighter budgets and stretched wallets, continue to flock to the membership-only retail chain to snap up items at a lower price point, particularly for their holiday needs. The holiday quarter is usually very strong for Costco. Analysts seem to think that will continue with this quarter report. Now, the company also posted another consistent month of comp sale growth for November just this week. Now, that's not included in this quarter, but it is a sign that sales are holding up. So they did show that even with the government shutdown, a reduction in those SNAP payments, that shoppers were still coming to Costco. They're still spending their money there. That's where they believe that the deals are being found, and that's where they're spending. Net sales for November were up 8%. Comp sales were up 7% here in the U.S., 7% in Canada, 11.4% in international markets. So that led to some positive commentary from analysts. They feel strong about this quarter. Back in September, they did beat their fourth quarter results on nearly every metric, including profit and sales. So they are coming off of a strong quarter as well. One important note, though, there has been some discussion about Costco announcing a special dividend. That's been sort of tossed around by some of the analyst community. But that was before the company sued the U.S. government to ensure that it receives a full refund of tariffs it already paid if the Supreme Court rules that President Trump's levies are illegal. So that is still pending, because obviously no decision has been made about that. But now the analyst community is saying they think that that special dividend will likely be suspended. One, because no outcome has been determined in that lawsuit. But two, also that relative stock performance that you talked about right before we started our conversation. It's their worst relative performance year to date in more than 2 decades. They are down more than 4% this year. So that could potentially delay it. Although Evercore ISI still said that they see a potential, regardless of those issues, for a special dividend announcement or potentially a stock split, which they say would be a positive catalyst for shares. That is a possibility, they wrote. UBS saying that they see that this could be another potential solid quarter for the retail giant. We think that the November numbers they just put out bode well for the foreseeable future. So they are expecting a good quarter announcement here. And over the last 3 months, EPS estimates have seen 11 upward revisions compared to 7 downward revisions. So that is indicating that there's slightly more bullish sentiment here when it comes to Costco. But most of the conversations I had about this company, despite the stock performance, indicate that analysts and the street are expecting a pretty strong report from Costco, and that the consumer is continuing to spend at Costco, which would go along with the trend that we've seen from the other retailers who've reported so far, Sam.
Yeah, Marley, I mean, it just seems like some of the investor caution really stems from the fact that the numbers weren't as big as we've seen before. It's just like a cooling trend. So, obviously they have set the bar very high, but they also have that brand loyalty. I was talking to Sveta Kalenska about that. She was saying that this is like the Disneyland for adults, if you can stomach the chaos when you go to the store. So I thought that was quite an interesting anecdote. Obviously, you and I both have kids. We know what that's like. But anyway, moving on. Thanks so much for that, Marley. Let's trade it now with Joe Tigay, portfolio manager of the Rational Equity Armor Fund. How are you approaching your example trade for Costco today ahead of these earnings, Joe?
Yeah, I got a kick out of the Disneyland for adults comment there. Yeah, that's how I feel when I'm at the store Saturday morning with the kids. It is chaos, but it is organized chaos, and I do have that loyalty. I'm there. I know what I'm looking for when I go there, and I know when I shop there, I'm gonna get a cheaper price there than if I shop elsewhere. So yeah, it's a store with a 90% renewal rate plus on their memberships. If they raise memberships, that would be a great catalyst to the upside. But again, it's been a stock that's been under pressure. Everyone knows that story. That's why it's been so loved coming into this year. It trades at a high multiple for other retailers. Maybe it makes sense for some consolidation, even if it's been a long, year-long consolidation. Also, the tariffs have been a headwind for them. I think once that issue is resolved, maybe that can be an upward catalyst, especially if they get some revenue back from the government. That'll be a very nice boon for shareholders if that does happen. But I don't think that's happening on this earnings. So for me, just seeing this negative trend here, knowing everything that's weighing on it, I just would sell some upside. The market's looking for a 3+% move on earnings. I'm just going to say, hey, we're probably going to get exactly that. Sell the upside call spread just in December here. Collect 460 to do that. Sell the 920 call spread. I just think the odds are in my favor to fade it just slightly here into earnings, even though I am a big fan and a long-term holder.
Okay, a good look at Costco there ahead of these earnings. A nice preview for us there, Joe. Thank you so much for that, sharing your life stories and also your example trade for us and what happens on the weekends in your family. Joe Tigay there, portfolio manager of the Rational Equity Armor Fund.